Welcome to Literary Deep Dives and Discussions. This is our fourth episode in the series called Who Wrote It? 4 authors, 4 pages. I've here with me today 3 fellow writers who will introduce themselves shortly. All 4 of us have submitted a single page of our work, and those pages have been randomly assigned numbers, then redistributed. What no one here knows is who wrote what page. By the end of this episode, we will find out how well writers truly recognize one another's voices. Here's how it's going to unfold. We will begin with introductions. Each author will briefly share their author name, their genre, who they write for, 1 or 2 interesting things about themselves or their series, and where readers can find them. After introductions, we'll move into the reading and guessing portion. We will go in numerical order based on the page assigned. For each page, first the assigned reader will read the page out loud, then the group will briefly discuss initial impressions, and then each author will guess who they believe wrote the page. I, as the host, will record those guesses, but at this point, the true author is going to remain silent. We will then repeat this process till all 4 pages have been read. At that point, we enter the reveal phrase when we go again, pages 1 through 4. I will announce the group's overall consensus, and then the real author will reveal themselves. The goal is really simple. We're here to explore voices, perspective, and the subtle fingerprints that make an author unmistakable. So with that, let us begin. I guess for introductions.
My author name is EastCoast Pinay. It's obvious because I wanna focus and promote my roots. Like, I'm a Filipina and I've been here for almost 10 years. Writing is mainly romance, and it's always focused on women who's always heartbroken. And I realized that I can write fast and better when I'm more emotional and heartbroken too. So I haven't written for few months already, I guess because I'm happy these days. So it's really becoming a problem for me because I only write like a few words in a month. And I just realized like weeks ago, oh, I really cannot write the same way I've written my previous works because I'm not in that headspace. So, but I guess it's positive that I'm happy these days, you know. My writing journey is like a pleasant surprise because it started during the COVID-19, and I didn't get to work for a very long time, and all of a sudden like I just want to write, and I get a chance to like ask my daughter like what is the writing platform that I can use because I really don't have any idea at all. She recommended Wattpad, so I started writing on Wattpad. I have like more than 10 written works there. Readers can also find me on Amazon and on Instagram. I'm not that active on TikTok right now because it overwhelms me. I'm not that young to like have so many social media platforms. I tried TikTok, but it's so overwhelming. Like you have to be so active all the time, and I'm too old for that.
I totally
That's
get
it.
that.
Hi, I'm Judith. I write under J.M. McGregor. I mainly write dark fantasy with a subplot of romance that's directed towards young adult and up. I love exploring psychological layers and delving into who we are at our core and having the characters carry that out throughout their journey, analysing all the good and bad relationships and red flags and green flags and everything in between. So, yeah, and I'm obviously from Australia, and I've got a book, Ashen Tide, on Amazon.
Hi everyone, my name is Samuel Yount. My writer name is S.Y. Allen. I took my middle name and made it my last name in there. But I typically write young adult fantasy and young adult fiction because I found myself in some writing competitions lately. I find myself expanding into other genres that I typically wouldn't go to. One genre I don't typically write and I don't typically touch is romance, ironically, but that's the one genre I kind of I'm not super good at. The main audience for my writing is Christian teens and Christian teen guys is kind of my main audience that I kind of go for. The first time I actually sat down and wrote out my first book was early 2021. My parents were both sick with COVID. It was winter and there was nothing to do. And so for about 2 weeks straight, I just wrote every single day and had a manuscript by the end of it. And that manuscript turned into the Watcher of Storms that I have now published. You can find me on Amazon or on Instagram. My Instagram handle is SY Dragon Writer. My Instagram handle is, and then I also also create music too that goes along with my books, but also just kind of more general Christian fantasy music that you can find on Spotify. If you look up Mantis1441 is my artist name.
I've never come across an author that does music. That's wow. Okay. I am Lieske. I am the author of the Unseen Operative series. My genre is speculative mystery thriller. My work is aimed at readers who enjoy sophisticated detective fiction in the tradition of classical investigative narratives alongside modern psychological complexity and speculative undertones. That is a mouthful, but if anybody values atmosphere, moral tension, layered conspiracies, and character-driven mystery, that is who I write for. Because interesting things about me, I am trilingual. So I was excited to have this podcast with Mary because I speak Filipino. I used to live in the Philippines.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah. Up in the Loag region. That's where I was from. So love it so much. And I love ketchup. It's my obsession. I don't eat it excessively, but I will take it over a candy bar any day. So that's a random thing about me. Readers can find me on Amazon mainly, although I am pulling off that to just sell direct on my website, which is where you can get my hardcover copy of the Lattice Scheme on discount. I am also on Barnes & Nobles online, Google Books, Amazon, Kobo, KU, all that jazz. Normally I would turn to someone else for page 1, but it looks like somehow I ended up with that page today, so I'm going to start off the reading. 100 yards away, underwater, sat a kraken. Its enormous body had a black glow surrounding it, its red eyes piercing through the shroud. The mouth was round and had giant pearl-white daggers lining it. Zach kicked in the water as a massive tentacle reached towards him. He broke through the surface and rode a wave onto the shore, just missing the beast's tentacle. Zach stood on the shattered beach and gasped for air, his chest heaving. He watched the waves for a moment before hearing a voice behind him. "Who do you think you are, then?" His voice was that of a young British man. Zach's mind jumped to images of Big Ben, London, and redcoats, but the shock kept him from moving. "How did you get here?" "What is your name, young man?" the voice ordered. Zach then responded unconfidently, "I am Zach." The voice suddenly turned friendly. The barking tone turned into a kinder English lisp. "My apologies, Zach. Here you go." Zach heard wood creaking behind him. In front of him, vines were crawling through the glass shards and onto the sides of his feet. The vines twisted together in front of Zach, and a shirt and pants took shape. The vines then retreated behind Zach. He bent down and dressed himself. To his surprise, the clothes didn't feel as uncomfortable or itchy as he expected. Zach turned around to thank his clothes maker, but when he faced the man, a ghastly figure stood in front of him. He was the same height as Zach. He had blue eyes, but instead of hair, vines were growing out of his skull. Vines and leaves covered all of his skin. Black vines covered his forearms. He also held a staff with all kinds of plants growing out of the top. Flowers and fruits of all kind hung outwards from the staff. "Hello there, Zach." His voice was as sweet as honey. "The name's Trunk." "What are you?" Zach stuttered. "I'm the watcher of plants. Looks like you've been left behind." "Let me guess. Zemp left you here, did he not?" Zach nodded. "Well, I can give you a lift back." "Thank you, Trunk," Zach stammered. Trunk's vines rippled as he nodded to Zach. He took his staff and twirled it through the air and let it fall into the broken glass. He whispered out the word the same way Cyrus did with verve. "Sintus." He then took several steps back as 6 vines sprouted from the staff. They stretched out and formed a creature. Within a few minutes, the entire alluri came into sight. It had 4 very muscular legs and a whip-like tail. The massive head was the last appendage to come into being. It had a long maw with serrated teeth, and there were massive rose thorns. It had 2 massive eyes that burned yellow against green vines. This massive lizard sat on the beach and looked at Zach. Thick vines made up the lizard's muscles, and the leaves sat on its back and belly like metal on a tank. Trunk quickly jumped onto it. He held out a hand to Zach. "Right then, let's be off." Zach thrust himself onto the apex of the lizard. Trunk then stood up in vine-like stirrups on the sides of Sintus. A vine quickly grew out of Trunk's hand, and he threw the vine around the beast's mouth and caught the other end of it. The lizard reared up and roared into the sky as Trunk yelled, "To the volcano, Sintus." And that is the page. Any thoughts?
I think Samuel.
What makes you say that?
The fantasy element.
It definitely has fantasy vibes. I can agree with that. What say you, Samuel?
I think the writing and stuff seems to be really choppy. The voice seems to be pretty like choppy and direct and stuff. It's an interesting way of writing that's I haven't really seen before that much.
I think Samuel too.
Why do you say
Because
that?
of the fantasy part.
Okay, so we got 2 votes for Sam. What are you saying?
I'm gonna say it's probably Mary.
I'm going to guess Mary as well.
Should I just leave? She pondered aloud in thick frustration. The weight of her own ignorance regarding much of the dreamscape tugged at her. "Oh, certainly, if you want to render him unresponsive." A sudden voice pierced through the silence from behind her. Turning, Azure's eyes widened in shock. There once again was the familiar Italian vendor scene. Stood a man in a large trench coat with darkened glasses and a cane. "Wagner, how?" Azure gasped, immediately taking a guarded stance. "Indeed," the man replied coolly. "It would seem you have been introduced to me, although I hardly have the pleasure of or pressing interest in your acquaintance to this point." He stood up, pulling out a walking stick, and began feeling his way down the street, slowly moving closer. He tapped Skilano's frozen form a few times on the back. Then once on the face, frowning, he turned and faced Azure. "You broke the puppet. You did this to him?" Azure spoke softer now, slower, not wanting to engage with any more danger than necessary. He smirked and resumed tapping his walking stick on the ground, circling her and Skilano, almost menacingly. Yet his voice held no threat. "No, my dear, assuming you mean his identity crisis and not this current affliction caused by your hand, I cannot claim the feat of a mental slate, free for use, that another caused. I am merely taking advantage of their vanity-sought currency. What profit do you gain from a mentally blocked man being used for some other prideful purpose?" she retorted, a bit haughtily. "There are countless ways to answer the question, my dear, but I'm afraid that I must leave it unanswered for now. Your primary concern should be your own physical and mental state. Should this remain unresolved," he tapped Skilano's face once more. She stood in silent consideration of his words. Azure had not yet attempted to leave the dream, unsure of the potential consequences for Skilano if she abandoned him with what was now described as a mental block. It had not occurred to her that leaving might not be possible at all. But assuredly, if it were, well, given Wagner's presence, should it not the detective have pulled her by now? Still, alongside this thought, there was a slight advantage. She could not get out. Perhaps that meant Wagner would be just as trapped as she was. Surely this could be used as leverage in an otherwise indiscernible situation. It would seem, then, that they were both in a state where neither of us can profit without the help of the other. Would he agree? The stark reality was undeniable. Unless Wagner could leave, having other disposable currency, as he so mongrelly put it, to resort to. Indeed, he huffed, relenting his canter to a stop. An unforeseeable turn of events. Have you encountered a dilemma like this before? Azure wondered if he had any prior knowledge or experience with such a situation. Regardless, she was keenly aware that he undoubtedly had far more expertise in the dreamscape than her novice-like training. However, she was not about to divulge her weakness, nor disclose doubts to a man presumably dead. As far as she knew, he might not already be aware of her shortcomings altogether.
Any thoughts?
It was very, had some tones of like psychological stuff going on with the characters. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, there were definitely those psychological elements. Kind of classical written, I think.
I'm going to guess Judith.
So we got one for Judith. What do you think, Mary?
I'm sorry. I think it's AL.
Okay.
I am going to say Mary.
I wish I could write so many genres.
If I guess Sam, we'd have everybody on the board for this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with JM as well.
Stop laughing. I'm being crushed by organza. You're in my dress. I am aware you're wearing it backwards. Brandon trashed inside the wardrobe. Help me out before I suffocate like a ghost bride. She stood back grinning. You are evil, he hissed. She studied him, both amused and uneasy at their resemblance. Brandon stared back with utter disappointment. Ryer, he hissed, if you don't help me in the next 5 seconds, I will scream loud enough to summon the gods. She folded her arms, trying to be serious. What have you learned? He peered through the fabric. Coat hangers are evil. She tilted her head, indicating for him to try again. He groaned. Fine. Don't embarrass the dirt keeper. By what was it? Pretending she's keeping me hostage in the closet or revealing her monthly cycle to her friends. Exactly, she said, stepping forward. There's power in mystery, Brandon. Stop ruining it. Brandon winced as she reached behind his neck, yanking the hanger sideways until it popped free from the fabric. The dress sagged, settling on him perfectly, and the jar of dirt now swung against his chest like some ancient relic. Thrill for me? She leaned back against the wall, motioning with her finger, and he scowled at her hands on his hips. I think it suits you better than me, she giggled. I'm not sure about how I feel about that or if I could wear it ever again after this showcase. He scowled deeper, and she continued, Really, Brendan? I didn't think you would come out of the closet wearing the closet. Ha ha ha, he replied, pulling at the cloth as Ryer sighed and moved in to help. I couldn't portal out, Brandon went on indignantly, tagging the dress off his arms while Ryer worked on the dirt jar knot. He would have heard me. Ryer paused, brows rising. Wait, you mean you've been in there for a while? For hours, Ryer, hours. She nearly choked. How many hours? For hours and hours they have melded into one, maybe days, he said dramatically. I dropped in for a visit, came through, and literally became one of the dresses. Then I saw him storming back in. His hands flailed, depicting the scene. I had to commit. Do you know how traumatic it is pretending to be a forgotten dress? The disrespect. She stared at him, mouth open. He continued, obliviously unfazed. I even pluffed forward when he started snooping, limped, almost sneezed in that floppy coat of yours, but I held it in like a warrior, and he just walked right past me, no clue. Oh my gods, you're insane. You're welcome. He tilted his head and smirked. Get used to it. She pressed a hand to her mouth to stop from laughing, then shook her head and helped him untangle the last of the jar strap from the hanger. You were lurking in the dress for espionage. Espionage, moral support, and petty satisfaction. Triple threat. She finally freed the jar and handed it to him. Brandon clutched the dirt like a baby. Ah, it's still warm, he said fondly. Dirt of solidarity, you're evolving, Ryer. Kicking Dalen out, chef's kiss. He grinned. I'm glad I am here to honor the moment. I didn't do it for show. Now, he said, throwing an arm around her shoulders, like he hadn't just emerged from a textile prison. Shall we go celebrate with hot drinks, chocolate, and the absolute minimum of emotional honesty?
Well, that was fun.
I enjoyed reading it. This is my third time reading it since I got it.
Definitely sensed comedic
Let me
vibes.
guess first.
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
think
Mary.
it's Judith.
You think it's Judith?
Like the YA touch of the way how it was written. Like I feel it while I'm reading it.
You've got your author instinct kicking in there.
This is a tough one.
I think I
Very
blew out
comical.
that Sam didn't write it.
Yeah. Bit of mystery. I'm gonna go.
I'll go with you, AL, is my guess.
Awesome. I'm gonna go with me too.
That's who I'm leaning towards as well.
It makes it harder.
Avery was at a loss for words. Her mind floated. Everything around her seemed to pause. She couldn't hear anything except her heart's fast and loud thudding. She pressed her hands to her cheeks, trying to feel anything. Since the moment David had driven away, her whole body had stiffened. With tears running down her cheeks, she kept questioning herself. What had she done wrong? What had she not done? David's words kept playing back in her ears. There's nothing wrong with you, babe. It wasn't you. It was me. How she wished the problem was just her. Were just her. Maybe the pain wouldn't be as intense as it was now. But though her heart wanted so much to wallow in self-pity, her mind insisted on the other. She needed to act. She needed to think smart. She wiped her tears, raised her chin, her hands tightened into fists. After placing her things inside the bag, she rose from her seat. She strode into the penthouse's direction. Once inside, she took her luggage and moved into David's room. Her eyes caught the frame with their engagement picture. She bit her lip, fighting back tears. She had to be strong. She needed to make a choice. She didn't need a plan B. What she needed was a perfect plan. Immediately, she dialed David's office phone number and sat on the edge of the bed. Her hands were shaking. This is the moment. She would take all the receipts she could get.
I could see that turning into a murder mystery. I really could. I read too many of those, though.
I'll guess Judith.
Same, Judith too for me.
2 for Judith.
I'm going to guess
Yeah, go ahead.
AL.
Oh, okay. I'm going to guess Mary. All right, well, all 4 pages have been guessed. So now we're going to turn into the reveal portion. Definitely give it a second after we read the majority of votes. So for page number 1 that I read, we have 2 that voted for Sam, 2 voted for Mary. So, who wrote it?
Did the tree background give it away, or?
I mean, I hadn't considered that, but now that you say it. So tell us a little bit about it.
It was actually a scene in the book. It was a scene that I had written up to and then stopped at for a couple of years until I sat down and actually wrote the entire thing. And it's actually like one of the scenes my mom has read through it, but she's only gotten to that scene and then stopped and hasn't gone through the whole rest of the book every time she's tried to read it. It was a really fun scene. It was one of it was an earlier crafting and stuff. The actual like chapter, that whole chapter and that whole scene was only like 200 words in my very first draft. It was really short, to the point and stuff. I had a lot of fun writing it and kind of trying to make it cinematic in the reader's mind, I guess. So, and I was totally critiquing my own style because I have a very punchy and direct, like hit you in the face kind of style. So
I like it. Especially, I mean, while I was reading it, because I was practicing it before as well, and like all the vine imagery, the plants. Do you have a fascination with plants?
Not really, actually. No, I wouldn't say I do. I've got other fascinations with other things, but plants wouldn't be one of them.
Interesting. Well, to me, you captured that very well, and there is that YA voice in there, but I don't know. I've read a lot of YA authors, indie authors lately to try to support them, and every YA author has a very different voice that I've found. So yeah. Very nice. Yeah. Page number 2. I think I wrote that. Did I write that? Yeah, that was my page. Yeah, it took me a while to recognize it. I just submitted a bunch of pages and then they were all shuffled around amongst the groups. So it's fascinating to me which ones pop up when and with what group. That was an interesting scene. For a little bit of context, my book, The Lattice Scheme, it takes place in the future. The main character is a detective who solves mysteries in dreams. She gains that ability through a weird experiment that happens against her will, and so she's just stuck with it. Her first case is to uncover this Italian agent. His real name is Ramazzi, but he goes by Scigliano because he turns up in America under this new identity. No one knows if it's amnesia or what it is, so she's obviously sent in to uncover whether or not he's acting or something else. The Italians want him back because of what he was investigating before he disappeared, so it's an international crisis. And while she's in his mind, there's this revenant figure poking around, which is Wagner, the one that entered the scene, and it comes to a point that suddenly she can't get out of his mind, and he's trapped in there too. So what's going to happen? Nobody knows.
Did we guess it right?
Yeah. Page number 3. Who wrote that? We have guesses for, mostly me, and one for JM.
It was me. What was going on in that scene? Brandon is a gypsy character with the persona of Captain Jack Sparrow. That's how I explain him.
The jar of dirt.
And he portals through jars of dirt. He's hid in different locations around this world. Raya has just discovered that he's her twin brother that she didn't know about because her memories were wiped, and he gave her a jar of dirt and he just pops in at random times, most inconvenient times. So she's made a game of booby trapping him. So sometimes it's under the bed, sometimes it's in a boot. So this time it was hanging from a coat hanger in a wardrobe and he got stuck in the dress, and he happened to be stuck there while she's having an argument with her boyfriend and kicking him out, and she's just walked in and he's like, little help, and he's a very all my characters are very neurodivergent and in a way that's not labeled, but their quirks are celebrated. So Brandon's very ADHD and unique. That's what's going on there, and that's in my book Ashen Tide. That's out at the moment.
I
Nice.
enjoyed reading it.
I thought it sounded fun. Oh, wow. Neurodivergent. Is there a reason that you make all your characters that way?
I think it happened naturally, and I realized afterwards, and then I just really played into that too, because I'm ADHD and autistic as well. So, and all my family are, my 3 kids are, my husband it's just my life. So I realized midway through writing that all these characters are just so quirky, and you can see what we would label in our world. You can see that in their behavior, but then the quirks are actually their strengths in the story.
I like that. A nice spin on things. Well, I guess page number 4 can only leave one person.
Yeah, it's me. And you who guessed it right?
I guessed
think
it
it's
right.
you. Yeah, you guessed it right. Yeah.
Tell us about that page.
It's actually I have one published book. It's entitled Before It's Too Late. I wrote it. It's my third written work on Wattpad, but it was the one that I was able to write so fast, like in less than 6 months, I think. That was the part of the story that was a challenge for me, because usually when you write romance, the female lead character always ends up with the male lead character, you know.
Mhm.
But on Wattpad, you write chapter by chapter, and then readers can comment like right after they read the chapter. And I got so pressured because I wanted to like write it, like I was so conditioned to write the ending as the main lead character ending up with the main female character, like live happily ever after all the challenges, the problems, and then they're still gonna be ending up together. While I was writing the when I ended writing the chapter before that, the readers are like started fighting, you know, like they were commenting like, early morning I have to wake up because my phone is like with so many notifications about the comments, and like I have to like beg them to please stop fighting because it's just a story, you know. But it's like I was so pressured because almost all the comments they don't want the lead male character end with the female lead character. So that part of the story is like I have to make a decision to like make the female character end the relationship with the male lead, you know. I was so conditioned to end it right after that chapter. All of a sudden they started like saying, oh, the story shouldn't end now because you have to like put a revenge chapter, like you have to make sure that the female lead will have her revenge, make the male lead suffer, something like that. So I ended up making another chapter, and then more chapters followed after that before I decided to end the story because it's getting out of hand. People are like, the readers are fighting. And I keep getting like messages before you can still get direct messages on Wattpad. And it's like, I'm so pressured. So I just decided that this will be it. It's like revenge at the same time. It ends with redemption, you know? So because before my goal is to like make the female character have a revenge, but I decided that why not empower her, you know, and make her, instead of just having revenge, to redeem herself. It's not what society is always telling us, that we have to end with whoever you chose to marry or who you have been with for a long time, because especially in a Filipino culture, like if you choose someone to marry, you have to end with him regardless of the situation, you know, especially if you have been in the relationship for so long. Because it's like he does not marry you alone, he marries your whole family. That's the Filipino culture. So I decided I'm gonna go with how I'm gonna redeem the female character, like making her own life, not with the male character. So it's like also redeeming herself and empowering her that she can live without that man, you know. So that's the story behind that scene. So I think it's like, it's also like empowering for me because the story is so personal to me. Like I know someone who had that experience, so I base it on her story. And I was like thinking, if she did not end doing the same thing in real life, why not make my character do the opposite, like redeem herself? So that's the story behind that scene.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that cultural part of it. A lot of folks, especially in America and first world countries, don't connect with that so well. So I love that. Twisted ends that really go against the status quo. I'm in the middle of writing an anti-romance to come out with my second book, and it's going to have some crazy twists at the end like that the readers are not going to like. But yeah.
Exciting.
Honestly, just on that theme of the many things that we write about, a question that I would pose to you all is, what are the themes of your writing?
Yeah, the themes. So the themes of the first book and throughout kind of the series is the idea of your your purpose versus kind of not having a purpose, and kind of what your mission in life is and what your purpose for being in life is. In book two, so in book one kind of touches on that. I'm in the middle of writing book two right now, and I'm going deep into what we have all been given. We've all been given certain abilities or tasks. We all have God given talents or strengths or resources, and what we choose to do with that. Each one of my books is based off of a Bible verse, and this one is based off of a verse in Galatians that talks about how we are to use our freedom to glorify God and to serve others around us and not for our own glorification. And so the villain in book two, I am really, really excited for because he's awesome. I really like him. So that's kind of a lot of the themes of my book, of my stories, is purpose and doing well with what you have been given by whatever thing is higher than you, I guess.
Themes in my book. Obviously, the neurodivergence, I've covered that. But I like to look at relationships and things like love versus control, because love can be a poison and a potion. It depends what is going on. You've got to be yourself within the relationship, not change for the other person. Ashen Tide is looking at who we are underneath it all, despite the adversity we face, and the fact that you can lose yourself over and over and over again and you're still there. You've just got to heal and come back to yourself at the end of it. You never truly actually completely lose yourself. You're just going on the map of your life pretty much. Most of my themes are very psychological and delving into what is manipulation, what's red flags and what's green flags, and choices and freedom and all of that sort of things. And truth seeking is a thread that I've weaved through it all. So mine's is a magic system and all that, but it's working out who my main character is, because she's had many different versions of herself along the years and had to reinvent herself from the age of 10. So she's pulled into service to the king because everyone has magic, but they're not allowed to use it. And if they do, they then become part of the king's guard and have to serve the king. So she's dragged along to that with her old flame that she thought was dead, but turns out he wasn't, but it took 3 years for him to come and find her. So, it's a very delving into relationships and what's good and what's bad and what's toxic and what's true in a relationship sort of thing.
That's fantastic.
Just to share, when I was writing this story, it's like I also learned so many things from it, because when you write, you tend to like put yourself on the shoes of the characters that you write about. One thing that I learned from writing it is like I realized that there is love in letting go, like, because when you're in a relationship, just like in my story Before It's Too Late, the female character Avery was trying to like keep the relationship, to stay to stay in the relationship, because she's used to being with the same guy. Like ever since for a long time. But then when I ended up changing the course of her life at the end of the story, I realized that if somebody is like hurting you when in a relationship, they can only hurt you as long as you allow them, you know. If we let go, it doesn't mean that you turn to nothing or you become no one because you let go of the relationship. I've learned that there is also love in letting go because you learn to love yourself. You know, it's like, and I think that's the one of the most important kind of love, you know, like loving yourself first, because I realized that with Avery's situation, when she decided to let go, she realized that she has to love herself first so that she can like share the love to other people better. When she stopped the relationship, she also realized that there is another option available for her. Like she can be better, she can grow more. One more thing is that when you're in a situation like family and friends, like the true friends are really important because they help you stay on the right path. Anytime that you let go, you tend to give yourself the chance to move on for the better. It empowers you. I ended up realizing that you're in a situation, whether you're a man or a woman, or you're in a relationship. It's like we should not be afraid to let go of people in our lives, because sometimes when we let go of some people in our lives, we give space to the people that we genuinely deserve to be part of our lives. I realized that having someone like a best friend, because in that story, a character stood out, her best friend, and her name is Shelley. And so the current story I'm writing is the story of Shelley, the best friend. And in the first book, it's like she's always the happy friend. But when I started writing her story, I realized it's harder to write the story of the happy person because you turn through to realize that there are so many hidden stories behind. I think most of the themes of the stories that I write, it's like it's not really just simple romance, but it's more of empowering mostly women. When you see your worth, you see how enough you are and how valuable you are. You will realize that you should not allow other people to take you for granted, and you should take your space, live for yourself first so that you can live for others. So that's why I always say on my Instagram post that I may be a romance author, but it's like I like writing romance that in the end will like empower women and make them realize their worth. That's it.
I sense there's an overall theme where we all kind of connect with some theme of empowerment, of taking a person's situation that may be difficult or maybe looked down upon or maybe stereotyped improperly, and taking that individual and giving them something more, that sense of purpose, that sense of love, that sense of, empowerment. And I love that. For my own series, I like to explore existence at its finest, both sides of it. I want to know, kind of like what you're saying, what has purpose, what isn't purpose, where is the control, where is lack of control, what is the war that is going on inside of us, around us, socially, mentally, all of those things. And I do that in a mystery thriller type form. So it's fascinating to me to be able to connect with other authors such as yourselves in those different themes. That's my source material, is learning from others, observing others. So seeing so much passion be put into others' work, that just inspires me greatly. What inspires you the most, either to originally become an author or for your current work right now?
For me, I don't remember a time where I didn't feel inspired to write. Like, it's like I just came out of the womb with words. So I actually in high school I was writing novels, and I wrote 4 YA novels then, and I used to go home from school and be typing until midnight, print out my pages, take them into school, and my friends would sit around in a group and read all my pages and like be begging for it each day. So that's where I started. But then I had a traumatic experience in my year 11, so like the year before we graduate over here in Australia. I ended up with a 13-year writer's block, which only broke January last year. And I started planning Ashen Tide between January and April, and then I sat down and wrote, and that book came out of me in 2 months, all of it. And then I found university degree, a bachelor, where I'm majoring in English and creative writing now. So during all that process of starting university, I was editing and cover designing and everything, and I ruined myself, let's be honest. I think Ashen Tide was just everything that I'd been working over in my head for 13 years, sort of thing. And like those, I'd tried to write during that time. I also lost the ability to actually properly focus on a novel and read it like properly. I'd just stop midway and I just couldn't. I think as Raya went through her journey, I processed everything, even though it's not the same stuff that happens in the novel that happened to me. But I think same with being a reader and reading things that other characters go through. We then put what we experience onto that character instead of ourselves. Healing inspired Ashen Tide. And I've completely broken my writer's block now, and it's just a huge weight off my shoulders because it was like half of me was gone when I couldn't write.
Thank you so much. It is a very personal thing that inspires us, and healing is a massive thing. Writing does do that. It pulls things out of your subconscious, makes sense of the world in a different way. So I find that very relevant and very relatable. Thank you.
Your own personal counselor.
Yeah,
writing.
I would say so, and this really inspired the magic system in the Watcher of Storms. Is the parable of the talents that's found in the Bible. So in my world, powers are actually called and designated as talents. And so the main character, most characters in most Watchers in the book have only one talent. The main character gets 4, and it's a combination, and it's like a whatever big thing and stuff. And so the idea of just taking what you've been given and multiplying it for those around you and for who you follow and who you live for, is really kind of what inspired a lot of it. And the parable of the talents really kind of pushed all of that. I've been writing for a really, really, really long time. I actually just came across one of my first pieces that I ever wrote. Based on the date, I was 9 years old, and it was a little flash fiction that I wrote with one of those like letter practicing pads where like you have to like swoop the letters in the right way and stuff. And I wrote a little short story on it and stuff. But I've been creating stories. My parents say that I just keep one toe in reality and all my other toes in all these other worlds and stuff. And so, but yeah, I would say multiplying what I've been given and the skills that I've been given and the worlds that I've been given, so is what inspires me. So
that's fantastic. I'm also a Christian writer, so I'm Christian mystery thriller, and so finding that deeper sense inside of it, I think that's very personal and very powerful. So I love that you take that, and it's kind of like you were saying about the abilities thing earlier, not abilities, but purpose, and yeah, then taking the abilities God has given you and multiplying them. You're literally living that, so very personal.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I always get inspired by songs. When I hear a song and then I get a line out of that song, and then it makes me like come up with a story out of it. Just like my story Before It's Too Late, it started with a song. I heard this song and I really like the line that says something like, because it's a story of betrayal, and then letting go and moving on. I like the line in the song that says something like, how could you make yourself and someone's life a home and then just let it all go? So it kept repeating on my ears for so many days, and then I decided I think I need to write it because it doesn't leave me. The line kept repeating, and so I realized just now while you guys were sharing that I often get inspired by lines of the songs, and then almost I just went back to all my manuscripts written on Wattpad, and it's like almost all of my stories there, they all started with a song. Like one song that I heard, and then I kept repeating a line out of that song, and then I started coming up with story out of it. I just realized that now. That's how I get inspired. So the same thing with what I'm writing right now. It's like out of the blue, I was listening to this song, and then I realized, oh, there's a story behind this song, you know? And so I always get inspired by songs. That's what I realize right now.
That's so cool. There is
Yeah.
something
That's
about
really
music
cool.
that pulls the soul and
Because I remember my first book. It's like I I I heard a song, and it's been days, and I said I don't like to like keep hearing the song, but I don't know, for some reason the radio station where I work kept playing the same song, and it stopped like repeating on my ears when I started writing the story out of it. It's like movie flashes, you know, like that's how I write my story. Like it flashes like a movie scene, and then I write them like that. I don't know, but English is not my first language, so I I I'm gonna tell you guys, like I commit so many English mistakes, English blunders. So I really, but it's like for me, I just want to write the stories that come to my mind. Like I just want to share it. So, so that's why I don't read my reviews, because sometimes it's real like it's not good to read your reviews, because it's like I just wanted to share the story. I did not tell them that they're gonna get smart, or like they're gonna get like sex scenes out of it, and now they're reviewing the story like this is a closed door or something. It's faded black. It's fading white to black. It's like I don't. I was so clueless. Like the spice rating. I don't have any idea about that, because I just write out of a song. I write the stories. I write. Then people start reading it, and then some reviewers were like, "Oh, this story is like so boring. It doesn't have like smart. It doesn't have spice." But I did not promote my book with spice. Like I just want to write and share the story.
yeah,
So I guess it's cool when we get to write the stories that we want to write, and we enjoy them, we enjoy writing them.
exactly. There doesn't need to be smut involved to have a good story, so I stand by that as well.
Yeah.
Sam, do you have anything to say about the music?
Yeah, so that's really cool that music inspires you. So I figured out a year or two ago that there's certain songs, there's certain melodies, and there's certain kinds of music that just like supercharge me for writing, and it works for other people, but other people have different combinations and stuff. And so the music that I create now, full disclosure, I use AI to create my music. I tell AI what kind of music to make and then post it. But it started out as I had these songs, and I had a collection of the most like random songs you can think of. That would be weird, but the most random songs that I would listen to when writing, and I would shift between them based on what genre, or based on the scene, or based on what was happening in the story to kind of help me write. And then I kind of decided to optimize it a little bit. I went to Suno, is the AI music creation that I use, and I started experimenting and making my own songs that I could then play to kind of optimize it. And then I started to figure out that, oh, these are actually good and other people want to listen to them. So I started then posting them, and I got like 200 streams overnight on some of the songs. And then I started figuring out, wait, I can take short stories, or I can take characters, or I can take arcs and scenes, and I can turn them into songs to produce them. And one of the things I'm working on right now is a full production of The Watcher of Storms done in a Hamilton style play as a
Oh,
soundtrack that somebody
that's
can listen to and
interesting.
stuff. Yeah, and so it started out. I don't I don't use AI in any of my writing or anything like that. I only use it in my music. But it started out with just kind of helping me optimize it a little bit, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I can do some stuff with this. So
Yeah.
Do you make playlists when you write stories?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
got
I
I got
oh,
like 20 playlists.
yeah, I know. Like every story that I write, I have a playlist. Like it's like
Yeah,
getting me into the mood. Like I listen to the songs, and then I choose that will complete the playlist for a certain story that I write. So
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
so
I
when
mean,
you're around me and then I'm writing, it's gonna be like nonstop. playing all over again.
Yes, yeah, just constant repeat of the same song. Yeah.
Yeah, that's unique. I mean, I've heard of like, people turn their scenes into art, but I've never heard that into music. I guess sometimes I get inspired when I'm in the middle of a workout and some song's playing and I'm like, oh, this is the next part. And then I have to stop
Yeah.
and do all my sticky notes all over the wall and then resume. But I don't know that I have a specific playlist. How about you, JM?
I hear a song that I've been writing at the time I've listened to it. I can actually completely envision the scene that I wrote during that song. So I'm sort of reverse, but I definitely have songs that I've listened to that I'm basing future scenes off for the next book sort of thing. But I see it in my head as a movie and I just write it down. And as for planning, I'll have a skeleton plan, but these characters form themselves. So they do what they want to do and the best stories come when I'll follow their lead. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm always shocked when I look on like Instagram and people are like, this is how you create a character. You need to make their arc and you need to outline them. And I'm like, just write the character.
I was so
Yeah.
clueless at first. I was like, what are they talking about? Like, you
Yeah.
know, because like, and I was like, what are they saying? Like, I have no idea at all because I just want to write what is coming out to my mind, you know. And then they started like, oh, you have to have this rating if your spice is like that, or your character should be this. I don't even know like the what stands for um FLM like that, you know. Before when I started writing, it's like I think I need to go on Instagram to know more about it. That's and when I started joining the book groups, that's when I learned about those words. Like, oh my god, I didn't know that there's like those words. Like I just write. I thought it's just like you just write, you know. And then you started like doubting yourself. The more you get more complicated information, you start doubting yourself. And then I just want to write. How come now I'm like, am I doing it right? You know, sometimes you get
Yeah.
that you start questioning yourself, like, I think I'm not doing it right because they have this, they have that, and I don't even have one of those. Like, I only have the computer and then I write.
There's so much posted on social media that it does make you feel like a kind of a fish out of water. When I first became an author as well, I'm introduced to these terms, FMC, MMC, and I'm like, what the crap? I'm just writing a book. It's fine. And yeah, it's the same, but we're bombarded with all sorts of things. So just on that kind of subject of the many things that do hit us as authors, just as a final parting, what would be your advice, your one piece of advice to an aspiring author?
As long as you're getting words on a page, you're winning. All the structure and the arcs and the plots and the subplots, that all comes after in the developmental edit. You literally could have dot points for your skeleton and then go and write it later. As long as you're putting words on a page, that's the job. You're doing better than every other person that hasn't started yet. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
You know?
My advice is actually pretty similar to that, but I'm a little bit more direct on it with people, is just write the dang story. Get the words onto the page. Get the story in there. It doesn't matter if you have 5,000 typos in a 80,000 word book. It doesn't matter that the arcs aren't there. It doesn't matter or finished. It doesn't matter that things need adjusting. It doesn't matter that there's missing scenes or whatever. Just write the dang book, because that's like you said, Judith, it's going to put you ahead of 90% of the other people, and it's also just going to feel good that like finally it's out of your head and onto the page. It's in a Word document that I can go read if I like get amnesia and forget about it, you know. And so my advice is just write the dang story. Like that's my advice.
And do you find like when you go through it afterwards, that's when you fill in the gaps that you were struggling with anyway? You know,
Right,
later when you go back to it, when you've got your end and you've got your beginning, and then you work out where scenes go and what happens and what you take out and what you put in.
It's a form of art, and there's process that everybody has to discover their own.
I guess for me, like, write what makes you happy. Because it's like, there's the reason why there are editors, you know, like I can always hire someone to edit my work, but it's like, if I'm gonna like Because after I joined some groups on social media, I started doubting myself like, your grammar is so bad, because I don't speak English as my first language. And then in the Philippines, when you learn English writing and speaking, it's so different from how we use it here in the US. It's like when you learn English there, it's like correct sentence structure. It's like more not conversational English. I realized that if you always listen to other people, like listen to your reviews or compare yourself to others, like how come before I was like, how come they're able to like make a post with so many character arcs, so many themes, like one book cover, and then so many arrows showing so many information about the book. And I was like, how come they can do that and I cannot do that at all? But I realized that if you write what you're passionate about, what makes you happy, then what is genuine inside of you will come out and readers will feel it. With my first book, like I started comparing myself, but I realized whenever I look at my Amazon sales, and I always say, thank God somebody buys my book every day. Like meaning that somebody out there can relate to what I've written. And when I get messages, like they email me, they send comments, and it's like, oh, there's this one instance that a young girl emailed me, and she was like saying that I'm the girl in the story. Like, how come your other readers cannot understand that with a broken family, something like that, it's always the child that's blah blah blah. And she wrote me a very long email, and I was crying so hard for so many days because I realized that she doesn't know me, but she connected with what I've written. Like, so right there and then I realized I wouldn't mind about the reviews anymore. I will not compare myself because there's one reader that will be for me. And so it's better that you write what makes you happy, write what you're passionate about. It's better to just like connect with just one person than not connect with anybody at all. So I guess that's what my advice is. Because when you're an indie author, you like to compare yourself to so many people.
That is the truth, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, comparison is the thief of joy, and these
Yeah.
are absolute great pieces of advice. We do just get it down, be yourself, be your best champion. That's what being an indie author is about, and your success needs to be based off of you, not everybody else around you. And what I've discovered in the indie author community specifically is that we're all on the same team. We're all cheering each
Yeah.
other on. Like it doesn't matter who is more popular, who gets more sales. Like we're just all in it
And
together.
I'm
And
so thankful for all the other indie authors because I learned
mhm.
so much from everybody, and it's like you feel the concern, the genuine concern that they have for each other. Like
Yeah,
you feel like you have a family. Like you can be quiet as part of the group, but you feel that you belong. They see you. That's how just like what we're doing right now, like you give us the space, you give us the time, and it's really something. It's not like we are hoping to like get more buyers or readers to buy our books. It's not, but it's like somebody to hear what what what's the story behind our stories, like to share something about ourselves. I think that's really important, like giving us a space and a time.
exactly. It's all about that. Well, I appreciate you all so much for joining me on this podcast today. It has been an absolute pleasure. For all of those viewers out there, I will be dropping all of their links below in the description. Please check out their socials. Please check out their books, especially if you heard something interesting out of any of the pages that you read today. As usual, subscribe to Literary Deep Dives and Discussions to continue supporting indie authors, and we will see you next week.